going to be stored, who has access to them, especially after the NSA issues that were happening a couple of years ago. People are very weary about where they store their files and who has access to them. So we've always made sure that we are able to give our users the control so that they can have the control of their files at all times. They're not uploading them to remote servers necessarily. And that's where the TAC app comes in.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what I find fascinating about what you do. It's not so much that you're storing things in the cloud on your servers or whatever. You can actually use your service and create a cloud-based structure with what you have currently, right, using your own hard drives and that type of thing.
Yes, exactly. We have a new app called TAC app that we just released a few months ago that basically turns any computer, Mac, PC, Windows into a cloud server, essentially. So the computer that you have turns into your cloud storage. And that way you can access these files, any file from your hard drive, pretty much instantly from anywhere. And you can use our mobile apps to access them from anywhere in the world and share them, whatever you need to do. And the other benefit to that is cloud storage can be an expensive thing. You know, usually the other companies, they'll give you a couple gigs for free, 5 gigs for free, 2 gigs for free. But many of us have computers that are 500 gigabytes, 2 terabyte hard drives. How can you access all those other files? Well, with us, you're turning your entire hard drive into basically a cloud server, so you can access the contents of your entire hard drive from anywhere in the world.
So I would be able to actually, if I had the TAC app on my Android right now,
yes,
I could access my computer back at the office and grab any file that I needed to. So unlike Dropbox or Google Drive or whatever, where, like you said, I'm limited to 5 gigs, 10 gigs or whatever, I have access to everything.
Exactly. And not only that, with the way that it works with the Stoamigo, all your devices are being unified. So you can use the Stoamigo ecosystem to transfer files from your Android to your computer, and you can do it remotely, wirelessly. If your computer is in Los Angeles and you're in New York, you can actually upload files from your from New York to Los Angeles through the Stoamigo ecosystem. It's all unified under one convenient location.
Very, very interesting. So how do we go about finding more information about your company and about how we get the TAC app on our Androids?
Yeah, you can find us on stoamigo.com. It's STOAMIGO.com. And as for the TAC app, you can also, we have a website called mytacapp.com, so it's mytacapp.com.
Okay, and costs, tell me a little bit about the pricing structure.
Well, the pricing structure is actually very, very good. It's free, 100% free right now.
Wow.
Yeah, so you can sign up for your free Stoamigo account. You can download the TAC app for free and use it, and most people seem to like our pricing structure right now.
Yeah, I would say that's probably okay. So again, everybody, it's Stoamigo, STOAMIGO.com. So Brian, grab that, put that in the blab there, STO. There you go, very good. And after the break, everybody, we will continue our conversation coming out of the work in progress here in Las Vegas. And joining us next will be Jamie Davis, the Pod Medic. Thanks, Sam. We appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks, Marlo.
I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on Super Talk 1270. Right now, 14.
Your news leader, weeknights at 6 and 10. Super Talk 1270.
Follow the Guru of Geek at Facebook.com/The Tech Ranch or Twitter at Guru of Geek or TheTechRanch.com. Here again is your Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson.
And we want to thank all of our listeners across the country and around the world who follow us on the Blueberry Network. We're also on the Tech Podcast Network. If it's Tech, it's here. On the Roku, on iTunes, Apple TV, our own app, Radio Pup, and, of course, new Blab.im. So if you want to see us live in person, head on over to Blab. Joining me next here at Work in Progress here in Las Vegas is the Pod Medic himself. Wanted to have Jamie on for years on this show. And he's very, very versed in all things health tech. So welcome to the show, Jamie.
It's great to be on, Marlo. Thanks.
Hey, we're going to get right into it because I know we have just a ton of things going on here with CES this year. So let's talk a little bit about wearables and where that is going.
Well, it's interesting. It's really going in directions that I've never really thought about. I mean, we have our Fitbits and Fitbugs that have been around for a couple of years now. People are wearing them on their wrist. But an interesting tech item that I heard about earlier today that I'm interested in finding out more about is actually a bra that tracks your walking, your sleep, your everything, a la similar to what a Fitbit or Fitbug would do. Who came up with these things? I mean, it just kind of boggles my mind. But I gotta go and take a look because I'm just curious. You know, this is the concept of building wearable technology into our just everyday clothing, even our underwear.
So, and I was just going to get to that actually. So for you and I, it's going to be our wearable shorts.
Tidy whities or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So, but that lends the next question: how do these things get laundered?
I don't know.
Okay.
We'll find out.
Okay.
That's one of the things I'm going to be asking about because obviously it's going to have to be washer safe. Although I don't know if you hand wash or whatever, but these are questions that have to be asked. And that's one of the reasons I'm here is to ask these kind of questions because consumers will look at these items and consider them. Will they buy a $150, tech tracking bra? I don't know. But will they buy another type of wearable item like a winter coat, a vest that you wear when skiing that deploys an airbag automatically should you get caught in an avalanche?
See, and those are the things that I see outerwear really becoming a big deal with tech because, again, you don't have to launder it every day. And have you seen the airbag idea, by the way?
That's another one that's on my list. I actually am going to be interviewing them hopefully on Thursday.
That's a fantastic idea, and I've also seen one now where it helps maintain body temperature. Mm-hmm. So if you're out, in the elements or whatever, you have that ability to turn the jacket on, so to speak, and it'll keep you warm. And like you said, deploy an airbag. I mean, there's all kinds of amazing things that are possible that we haven't even thought yet with wearables.
Well, that's the thing that I kind of, I was here 2 years ago, I think, and everybody was looking at everybody was doing the activity tracker, basically an electronic pedometer.
Right.
The pedometer technology has been around for a long, long time. So making an electronic one didn't seem like that big a leap. And so everybody was like, well, yeah, where are these wearables going to go next? And I think that, interestingly enough, they have really continued to expand that, and the ideas are limited really only by what the imagination of the developer is. And that's what I'm finding here 2 years later when everybody said, well, wearables aren't going to go anywhere beyond just that. Well, no, wearables are going to be integrating technology into everything we do. There are smart collars for your dog now that can track your dog's activity. So if you have a dog that's too sedentary, that's laying around, and your vet says the dog needs to lose some weight, well, you can track that now on an app, connect it to a device on their collar, and find out how healthy your dog is getting.
So do you think wearables, I'm thinking crossing over, or not really a crossover, but to the Internet of Things. They're talking about 20 billion devices by 2020 being on the Internet of Things, whether it's your furnace or your toaster or whatever. Do you count wearables into that list of IoT?
I think absolutely, especially as a parent. My kids are older now, but when kids are younger, think about the possibilities of you have a sick child. There's a device out there called the Temp Track that is basically a Band-Aid with an electronic device in the center where the patch would be, and put that on your sick baby. It monitors their movement. It monitors their core temperature. And if you need to know if the temperature is going to spike in the middle of the night, well, it'll alert and sound off your phone. So you can be that parent that sleeps a little better at night. And these Internet of Things are all going to be connected. Imagine a central pad-like tablet device in the home that tracks all that things. The Junior's in the bedroom and Sally's in the playroom and the other kid's outside playing with the dog, and they're both running and moving around.
Right.
I mean, these are all things that I think are not outside the realm of possibility in just a few years.
So I just had a note handed to me here that people will spend $150 for the bra because a good bra costs over $50 now.
Right.
So there's, I guess that would be the thing, if they're going to be close in price, and what's that closeness? I mean, is it $50? Is it $100? And the cost benefit they get from it? I guess that's probably the bigger deal. I think we can dream all kinds of things, but if it's not cost effective, people.
And I'll give you an example. My wife, and hopefully she's not listening. I sent her the link, so she may be. She has gone through several different Fitbits, because she's lost them, she's washed them, she's done all kinds of things with them. Imagine if it was a device that she was going to wear every day anyway, like her bra. You know, it wouldn't be something she'd forget to wear.
Right.
And her workplace is a very active program for fitness and wellness, and different departments compete with each other for steps on a monthly basis.
Right.
So this would be something that, if she didn't have to worry about losing it, it could be an amazing, just even for professional aspects.
Yep. We're getting some questions coming in on Blab, too. What about a Fitbit chip? And I was actually going to kind of get to that, too. The thing is that with, and that's coming from Brian Reinbold, by the way. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's actually the better route to go, because if you could put a chip in, let's say, a necklace or earrings or something like that, so it's not a watch per se anymore. It's something that a person would be, maybe, and people are proud to wear watches too, but, I think custom jewelry would be really something where some of this stuff would come into play.
Yeah, and I've actually seen something about a connected item of some kind of connected gem.
Okay.
Now, we know they can create synthetic diamonds, synthetic emeralds, synthetic rubies. We know that technology exists. Imagine if you could somehow embed a chip or something into that jewelry. That, yes, it is an attractive item of jewelry that also has some kind of embedded technology in it.
Right. So what else do you see with wearables right now in the health field?
Well, there's some interesting things going on. I saw first last year that there's some more companies entering the market space, and that has to do with concussion technology for athletes, especially our young athletes. This needs to be affordable. Not everybody has a team doctor on the sideline like they do at the NFL or at hockey or any of the other major professional sports organizations. High school sports, college sports even, don't have anything more than an athletic trainer. And while they're highly trained and very good at what they do, you need to be assessed by a physician or at least a nurse or nurse practitioner to be able to see if that concussion is severe, should you be allowed to play again. Well, imagine a device that would fit inside your helmet or wore as a headband while you played that would record the forces, the G-forces impacted upon the body during a collision. You could then measure those G-forces, and the research is not there yet, but the research is coming in to measure the amount of G-force it takes to impart a concussion, or at least a suspicion of a concussion on somebody. If you knew what that level was, then you could turn around and say, this device detects anything above that level. It flags the coach immediately via their smartphone, and they pull that player off the field until they can be assessed by a licensed medical professional.
So do you see other things there, too, like monitoring heart rates and other things for athletes so that coaches can make these decisions?
That technology's been there. And actually, I'm looking forward to seeing more of that. Last year, I interviewed an Olympian, Dotsie Bausch, who is an Olympic cyclist, and she used a sensor technology that measured the oxygen levels in her blood, her heart rate, and her respiratory rate, all in a single wearable device that she used to monitor how her training was going. In other words, how efficiently was her body utilizing oxygen? How efficiently was she keeping her heart rate in a target zone during an exercise workout, preparing for major competition? And she used that technology and that data to make her workouts more efficient so that she became a more efficient athletic person.
So you see, like, football coaches and whatever on the sidelines now, of course, drawing plays and that type of thing on their tablets and things. Do you see a day when you see all the players with their heart rate, their temperature, all this stuff on the field too, so the coach can say, this person maybe isn't performing as well as they should because they're ill or they're, those type of things. So that they have warning signs or something that says that, maybe I'm just.
Well,
go ahead.
I tell you, it brings me back to, like, if I'm a big sci-fi buff. You look at any of the sci-fi war movies where they can actually monitor the soldiers in real time and see when they're injured, see when they die, whatever. Right. Imagine that similar technology built into the helmets of an NFL player. Not only that, if you're the quarterback, you've got that little visor down there. Maybe there's a heads-up display in there that's actually displaying the play that the coach has just sent in to you, and in the same time it's sending back to the coach and the trainers your core temperature. Maybe you have the flu and you're playing while you're sick. Right. Well, are you hydrated? All these things can be monitored. Medical technology is using these things all the time. They're now swallowable devices that track core body temperature while they're in your system until you pass them. They have cameras built in that can actually photograph the inside of your gastrointestinal tract all the way through until you pass them, and then the device sends back the images back to a specialist that can look and see if you have cancer lesions or anything like that. This technology is just expanding exponentially, and the medical device marketplace is going to be one of the biggest things coming up.
All right. And after the break, everybody, Mr. Jamie Davis, the pod medic himself, will continue this discussion on wearable technology and other health tech that we'll be seeing this year at CES. Coming to you from Work in Progress in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Right now, 14.
Get the traffic and weather information you need anytime on SuperTalk 1270 and online at supertalk1270.com.
We're back to the Tech Ranch. Stream this program now at supertalk1270.com. Here is your guru of geek, Marlo Anderson.
And joining me here at Work in Progress, a co-working space here in downtown Las Vegas, is the pod medic himself, Jamie Davis. And we just finished a conversation on wearable technology, and we're going to get into a little bit about 3D printing now, Jamie. So I talk about this a lot on the show myself, and I love what 3D printing is doing for a lot of industries. But I think the biggest impact that it probably will have is in the health industry. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's a couple of different directions we can go in this, and we'll talk in two different directions. One is the individuals printing health devices or health assistive devices for themselves, and we've seen this. Third world countries, people out there with missing limbs, either from injury or because they were born without the appropriate limb, maybe missing the end of their arm, for instance, can't afford modern prosthetics. That cost thousands and thousands of dollars, have to be specially fitted. And, it's great if you can afford that or if your insurance will even pay for it. But imagine if you're in a third world country and you can just go into the major area where you have internet connectivity, download the menu for a prosthetic device that you want to use, print it out in a 3D printer, assemble it, and attach it to your arm, and you're good to go.
And most people might think that we're talking about science fiction here, but that isn't even the case. This is actually happening already.
This has been going on for about 4 or 5 years. Since 3D printers first started, there's a famous story about a child in Africa who needed a new hand, and it was sent out to put out to the maker world,
right.
The blogosphere out there, and 2 3D printer guys came up with a design for a 3D hand, sent it down, and kept working with somebody in South Africa, ended up coming up with a design through many iterations till they found one that worked the way they wanted it to work, and then they finally came up with a final design. And they did all of that using a MakerBot device that just was ready to go.
I think the reason that this is becoming, more mainstream conversation now, though, is that more and more people have access to 3D printers because the cost has gone down, and of course the cost of printing materials now has gone down as well. So there's just more access, and it's just economically feasible now.
Well, it makes sense. I think we look back to, you and I have been doing around tech for a long time. What did our first hard drive cost, and how big was it, or our first printer? And now
I can tell you.
But now they're giving printers away, right? You just have to pay for the ink.
The difference between when I bought a computer in 1986, not to get back to this a little bit, but we had a choice between a 10 meg hard drive and a 20 meg hard drive, and it was a $300 difference between the two. And I remember talking to Alice, my wife, about this, and we were like, what are we going to do with all the extra space if we go to 20 meg?
That with an extra 10 megabytes.
Unbelievable. Yeah. And now you're just like, so you're right.
Our audio files are bigger than that.
Yeah, exactly. And now you can buy a 3D printer for less than $300 if you want.
Right. And so the time is not that far away, at least for homes at a certain socioeconomic level, will have a 3D printer in their home. They'll print new kitchen implements. They're having a party. Maybe they're short a couple of forks because they didn't get enough at the store. They print more forks on the fly.
Right.
Now, I know that sounds crazy because the device and the materials are still not cheap enough to make that feasible, but it could be feasible within just a few years.
Right.
And we're seeing that. And I think the same thing is going to happen for 3D printing technology. Hospitals are starting to implement this, and this is what's really exciting. They're creating maker centers for the nurses and the physicians. You're on the floor, you've got a patient with a particular problem, and you sit there and you go, wow, I wish I had something that kind of looked like this but did this. Well, you take that device, you 3D scan it, you put it into your printer, and you add the attachment or the functionality you want, and you become a nurse 3D maker. And you create a brand new device, medical device, that can be used even if it's just for one patient. It's a one-off thing. It's disposable. You use it. It's done. And maybe you send that out to the net, and other nurses say, wow, I had a patient who could have used that too. This is the beauty of 3D technology, that we're going to create devices for the individual. Not only that, organs for the individual.
And that's exactly what I wanted to get into next. I mean, just last week, or maybe it was a couple of weeks ago, we talked about an organization that is printing veins, and they're actually working.
Yep.
To me, you put them in the body, and the body accepts them right away, and within days after the implant, the veins are actually doing their job. And to me, that is just absolutely amazing. But that is just the tip of the iceberg for what's coming at us. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, you have very simple organs or organ systems like veins, like the bladder, bladder is basically a muscle sac, right? We can 3D print bladders now, okay, using the person's own cellular structure and DNA to do that. And so the beauty of that is it's not going to be rejected because it is your cells.
Right.
You don't have to worry about the typical issues with transplants, even though we've been able to overcome that with immunosuppressive drugs and things like that. Imagine if we didn't have to put people on this drug cocktail for the rest of their life. We just grow their own organ, another version of their own organ, and plant it in the body. So we can do that with simple structures, tubes, simple organs, tubes like veins that are essentially just straws. We can do that. The technology is now moving to where they can print more complex structures, and the challenge is creating a way to tell the cells to differentiate the way our own bodies tell them to differentiate and turn into a different type of cell. And so using these stem cells that we harvest from somebody's bone marrow, we will eventually, and I think probably in the next 10 years, be able to print a new heart, print new lungs, print very complex organs, because it's really just around the corner. We're already doing simpler things, and the technology is out there where they're starting to be able to create very much more complex organs.
So a question coming across from Brian on Blab: we'll soon be able to replace everything except our consciousness, immortality on the horizon. I don't know if we'll ever get to that level, of course, but we're talking about substantial gains in longevity here, aren't we?
Absolutely. Think about any loved one that you've lost in the past. Maybe it's because of a cancer, because of an organ that had to be partially or completely removed. They've needed to be on a transplant. The organ has failed. They could grow a brand new, fresh organ that had no damage to it, none of the damage we do to things with our unhealthy lifestyles. That organ is now good for another 60 to 80 years, right? So, yes, pushing longevity out to 110, 120 for a normal lifespan means middle age becomes 80, 90 years old.
Unbelievable.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about the ability to print like bones, joints, that type of thing. A typical hip replacement. Now, right now, when you go in for a hip replacement, you might have a choice of 3 different sizes, and they match the one that's the closest to you. How will 3D printing change that? Well,
they'll actually use CT scan or PET technology or any of the 3D scanning technologies that are available in the hospital marketplace now. They'll do a 3D scan of the area that they're going to replace, and they'll model it and print from the 3D model in scale exactly what they need for you as a hip replacement.
So, because the hip that you have and the hip that I have are different.
Right.
So I'll actually get about as close to a replacement as possible.
Right. It'll fit in every way. So the ball socket will be the same size ball socket, everything. Right now they have to put in an implant implantable socket so that they can then fit the hip joint into that. I don't want to get into too much gross technology here, but they have to hollow out the whole part of the hip to make that implant fit in there so that the hip joint can fit into the standardized socket. Well, you wouldn't have to remove all that bone and tissue from the healthy person if the socket was already healthy and still good to go. We just put in the correct size joint to fit in there.
And imagine the recovery time difference.
It's better recovery time. They're getting people with hip replacements up in 3 or 4 hours.
Yes.
And that's a good thing. So I don't know if that type of recovery time will make it that much of a change. But the organ will be better sized for the individual. If we're growing actual tissue, it will be no chance for rejection because of some kind of inflammatory response to a foreign body, which happens now with most replacement knees and hips and things. So we're on the horizon for some pretty incredible stuff. And there's some ethical things that we can talk about maybe in another segment because there are some concerns. What about that athlete that wants to have the perfect length shin bone?
Interesting.
For that.
Well, we have like 2 minutes left here before we go to break, so why don't we talk about that real quick? And you're starting to see people do this now, especially parents. They're looking at when their children become closer to adult age or that they are improving their bodies. Mm-hmm. Because of these technologies. And this isn't science fiction either anymore.
No, absolutely isn't. And I think that this is really something that the medical ethicists out there are really concerned with. And it's a big discussion point right now. What is cosmetic? What is for functional purposes?
Sure. What's enhancement?
What's the difference? What's an enhancement? What's just for cosmetic reasons?
We thought that the steroid debate was a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to even be a bigger deal.
You know, if you're going to replace a part on somebody, it's going to make a pitcher's arm work better. I mean, think about things. You know, athletes that totally destroy a body part because of the way their pitching motion is because, you know, baseball pitching is very hard on the body.
Yep.
The shoulders just get torn up.
Yep.
So if you could replace that entire shoulder joint and build new tissues, that pitcher could have a longevity that is unheard of today in modern professional sports.
Yep. All right, everybody, after the break, we'll continue our discussion with Mr. Jamie Davis, the pod medic, bringing us very interesting and insightful things in the world of medicine. So come on back.
Right now, 18.
Get the app called Radio Pup for your iPhone and take us everywhere you go. Bismarck and Mandan's own Super Talk 1270.
Follow the Guru of Geek everywhere he goes. Post your comments or questions at thetechranch.com. Once again, your Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson.
And we're coming to you from Work in Progress, a co-working space here located in downtown Las Vegas. Sitting next to me is the pod medic himself, Jamie Davis, and we've had a very fascinating discussion today on where health and technology merge. And we covered things like wearables and 3D printing. And we're going to continue our conversation a little bit with 3D printing because there's one other aspect, and that's food. So tell me a little bit about how 3D printing is going to impact maybe the health choices that we make or healthy choices we make towards eating.
Well, some of the issues we have with food right now is that the preservatives and the things that the additives they're putting into food to make it shelf stable for longer periods of time for transport and then being on the shelves in our supermarkets. All those things are chemicals, not necessarily healthy for us. We think of it as trans fats that transformed the shelf life of things like breads and anything with any kind of oils in it. That oils go rancid over time. Not if they have trans fats in them, because the bacteria can't eat them if they have trans fats in them. Well, if the bacteria can't eat them, you probably shouldn't be either. And I think that's where the issue comes in. So if you could actually 3D print food from a basic set of building blocks, just like you put filaments into your 3D printer already,
or printer cartridges,
or whatever else. You'd have a protein cartridge, you'd have a carbohydrate cartridge, you'd have a fats cartridge, and it would all be fresh. You'd buy the cartridges and you put those in there, and it would print whatever food you ordered up, right? Without any preservatives, it would just be the food you ordered.
And again, this is not science fiction, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, they're starting to do this right now. Last year, I was really wowed by a guy that had created a flatbread printer. Now, you think, all right, flatbread, that's pretty straightforward, but it prints the material, cooks it, and serves it in about 10 minutes. and creates a tortilla or whatever. And flatbread is worldwide. I mean, every culture has a version of flatbread. We call ours pizza, and we put, stuff on it, right? It is what it is. Imagine you just print the pizza dough out. Well, that technology is not far away. They've already created synthetic meats and created the first synthetically grown burger. So imagine if you could create a burger with less fat in it, a healthier, leaner version of protein, because we all need that protein, without harming any animals. How many vegans would go back to eating meat?
I hear the burger, by the way, was the first $1 million burger.
Yeah. Well, it was a lot of time and energy going into growing that burger, and it was a single burger.
Yes, yeah. and I hear that it didn't taste the greatest, but it's progress.
It's progress. It's moving in the right direction, and this solves issues for people with starvation is a worldwide issue. We can talk about all kinds of problems, and it's not just a third world issue. It's a problem right here in the United States. People go hungry every single day. If there was a way to print out food safely and efficiently from basic building blocks, it would transform the way we got food to people. And you could be on trucks, it could be on a car, heck, your ambulance could drive into a neighborhood that has underserved populations and print out meals as part of their healthcare services to that organization or that community. So there's all kinds of things out there.
Absolutely amazing. It really is. So I know we're going to start pushing up against the clock here for the show today, but I really want to talk a lot about keeping yourself healthy and the technology that's here now or on the horizon. One of the devices that really fascinates me is a device called Scanadu. Mm-hmm. And they're actually talking about the ability with Scanadu to predict a heart attack 7 to 10 days in advance of you having a heart attack. So is this technology progressing? Is it real? I mean, where are we going with this stuff?
It is real, and the challenges are out there, but I think that the challenges are being overcome every day, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Scanadu has in mind to do that kind of predictive technology. But you can predict a lot of things just by regularly monitoring your vital signs. And we're seeing this in all the connected devices. We talked about the Internet of Things. If you had a blood pressure machine that's hooked into that, and you sat down, you took your blood pressure every morning, you monitored your respiratory rate, you monitored the oxygen level, carrying level of your blood. You did all of that every day where you just were hooked up to it, or better yet, wore a device every day that continuously monitored some or all of those aspects. Then yes, you could predict the onset because we'd see the changes in the vital signs, much like a paramedic or a nurse or a doctor monitors your vital signs and says, uh-oh, something's changed. Well, imagine if you had your wearable device that said, call 911 right now, you were have an impending heart attack.
Right. And that's pretty amazing when you think about it, that your smart device might actually be warning you, a day in advance or 7 days in advance you having a heart attack, so get into the doctor now to get this handled. And you bring up one other thing that I think is interesting, and I refer to it as trying to describe your car issue to your mechanic. When it's 20 degrees outside, it's making this noise, clunk, 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 whatever it is, right? You're trying to describe this, but it's not happening when you're there.
Right.
Doctors have the exact same issue, don't they?
Absolutely do.
So when they have the ability to look at a log of what's going on in your life, and they can and because it's connected to your smart device, they can look at your activity for the last 30 days, whatever. That makes a big difference for them, doesn't it?
Absolutely it does. And there are several different medical problems out there that if we could monitor in real time, say your heart activity, there are heart arrhythmias out there that occur where you suddenly have an onset of a very rapid heart rate. People say, I'm having palpitations, but they come and go. Well, if the doctor can't look at that rhythm while it's going on across the monitor, the little blips going across there, and read what's going on with that rhythm, they may not be able to target where the problem is. But if they could see it in real time or a recording of it that happened in real time, then they could say, oh. So imagine a T-shirt, for instance, and this technology doesn't exist, but anybody that hears this and wants to develop it, it's free. I came up with the idea just now, but imagine a T-shirt that had the points built into it where the electrodes would attach for an EKG, and it continuously monitored your heart while you were wearing your T-shirt, hooked into your smartphone via a Bluetooth or other connected technology, and sent a continuous update to the cloud where it just recorded your heart rate. Well, event happened to you, and you didn't remember. You say, "Wait, doc, I have this. This happened between 3 and 3:30 yesterday. Here's the printout." Or let me email you the file. Doctor can look at it in real time, see the change occur, see the change go away, and be able to diagnose something very quickly based on just that data.
So isn't it interesting that we have smart devices that basically are mini computers that we carry with us now? I mean, they were a phone and still are a phone, although we only use it 8% of the time now as a phone.
Right.
And that's getting smaller and smaller, or less and less as we go on. But this is a building block. To me, it's like no different than when we discovered the wheel. Then you have a cart, then you have a car, you have a steam engine, you have all the stuff that comes about because you invented a wheel. I feel like we're at that same point right now in our history because of smart devices, because someone had the wherewithal to figure out a way to start taking photos with our cell phones a couple of years ago. And then somebody said, why can't we add the internet to this? Why can't we figure out a way to have wireless devices on our head so that we don't have to pull out the phone all the time? All of a sudden, there's just this explosion of all these other technologies that monitor our health, that keep us connected, that make driving more safe. I mean, all these things are happening because of that. So with that in mind, where do you think we're going with our health industry and the connected side of it, being able to talk to our smart devices? Well,
somebody mentioned in Blab, I think, connected some kind of implantable chip. I mean, we chip our dogs for identification purposes if they're lost, and we may or may not chip your children. That's a whole issue. I have teenagers. They would be horrified if they thought I'd chip them, and no kids, I haven't. But
at least not publicly.
At least as far as you know. But imagine that implantable chip that monitors your entire physiology from birth to death and is connected to whatever device you have. I mean, my phone is nothing more than a personal computer. It's just smaller than the original personal computers that came out there. Where that technology is going and how small it will get so that it's still usable, who knows? But as long as now that we have these devices, you're right, it's very much like the wheel, and having that connected device connected to us, connected to our world around us, makes us a community on a worldwide basis in a way that's never been seen before. We already see it with the internet. Marlo, 50 years ago, you and I never would have met each other because people didn't travel more than 50 miles from home most of the time. But now because of the internet, I have friends worldwide.
And in fact, you and I have only met one other time before now, but because of that connectivity, because of this. It's amazing, actually, what's gone on because of this. It really is. I always talk about, getting off health a little bit here. We talk about that we don't actually build relationships face-to-face anymore. But I actually think the opposite is true. We actually have more relationships now because of what's going on online, whether it's Facebook or whatever. And you and I may have 1,000 friends or 10,000 Twitter followers, and no, I don't know every one of them. But you do build this relationship with these people, whether it's through an association or because, you have something in common. And in going back to health now, there might only be 50 people in the world that have the same ailment that you have.
Right.
But because of the internet and this connectivity, all of a sudden these 50 people can start corresponding, or these doctors that are working on these people can correspond with each other and figure this out, where before that wasn't even possible.
And that's so important to say because, when you have a single patient who is the only patient that occurs in your country for the last 50 years.
I hate to do this, Jamie. We are out of time.
Oh, well, I'm coming back. That's just it.
All right, everybody. We really appreciate you being on today. Jamie, it was a pleasure having you on the show today. We'll have to do it again. And everybody, we will be having updates and that type of thing coming from CES. We'll be looking for those on Blab and on the station. So have a great week, everybody.